All right, we're back with Dana Cato. It's been a while. We had summer, kind of tough to coordinate schedules. Some technical glitches that were not our fault, of course, but we're back, and I'm so excited to get back on this. So, first of all, how's your summer been?
It was uneventful, but fair. I'll give it that much. I didn't do a whole lot.
Okay.
Not yet, because I've got some things planned. My book has actually been put up for an award with the Military Writers Society. I didn't know that. I gave them my book for a review, and they sent back to me and said, "Hey, we're gonna take a look at your book and see if it qualifies to be in our annual awards." And it did make it. It was one of 6 in the memoir category, and that went back to a committee, and they emailed me back and said, "Congratulations, you've won an award." I don't know. They give out a medal, gold, bronze, and silver. I don't know which one I'll get, but there's a banquet in September, at the end of September, and I'm going to be going out there to Kansas City, Missouri, to the banquet to see what I won, see what happens with the book from there. They're going to put a press release out, put it on theirs, and push it. So I don't know. I've been concentrating a lot of efforts on my book over the summer and kind of trying to be patient with it, see what it does, see where it goes. And so that's what my summer has consisted of.
Well, that's not too bad.
No.
That's great,
No,
and
no.
congratulations.
So basically I'm working. I guess I was working.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's no good. we're in the education system now. We don't work in summers.
Right.
That is not at all surprising. As we've just been discussing, it's a fantastic book. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Can't wait to see how that goes.
Yeah.
End of September, you said.
And last weekend of September, yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay. Last time we just kind of covered the Iraqi Governing Council. Talked about Ambassador Bremer. The two before that, we talked about your first day. That was fun. And this one is about the Gurkhas. It's all about the Gurkhas.
This is all about the Gurkhas. And the Gurkhas are, it wasn't enough that I've ended up over there now in this crazy job that I've found out what I'm going to be doing. I'm dealing with the military. I'm dealing with the civilian side or the business end of war, which I knew nothing about. I'm dealing with this Iraq government, all these different religions, all these different backgrounds, all these different beliefs. I'm dealing with expatriates from all over the place, South Africa,
Ghana. Is it Ghana?
Ireland,
Fiji.
People from like Ireland that had such a heavy accent, I can't understand them. I'm sure they couldn't understand me. So I got all these different things. So that's not enough. Now we got to throw in a Nepalese Gurkha as my guard force, which is a very integral part of this, because if the hammer falls, these guys are going to be the defense force for the government that I've got to make sure they do their job to protect the government. So now I've really got to learn who these guys are and what they're all about. Because if I don't know them and they don't know me and we can't communicate, how are we going to make this happen? This seems like this is unbelievable. So here you go. There's a battalion of Gurkhas over there, and they're going to hand me a company of them and say, these guys are yours. They're going to be your force to help protect the government. So there you go. Have a good day.
Well, you talk, and I definitely want to get into some of the stuff about the Gurkhas, but I guess the thing, I was about 4 pages into the chapter when I got kind of surprised when I realized I think it was the end of your last chapter, one of them where you said, "What the hell's a Gurkha?"
Right.
And I was like, oh, it's a group of fighting force people, a tribe. It's not. And so you said they have a wide range of spiritual beliefs from Buddhism, Hindu, Christianity. So like, what are they? Like what makes a Gurkha?
It's the country in Nepal, right? It's just a country.
Gurkha's a country.
The Gurkhas are part of the country.
They're
They're the fighting force for the country of Nepal. Okay?
Huh.
They're the army for Nepal. These Gurkhas are. So when the Brits came across them in the 1800s, as they were taking over land after land after land, not necessarily, it was colonization. That's what the Brits were doing. So it wasn't necessarily in a non-peaceful way, but they were going to take you, whether you want to be taken or not. And these guys said no. And the Brits were like, okay, it's just this little country. And they couldn't beat them. They couldn't beat them down. These guys just fought and fought and fought and fought. So they just signed a treaty with them and said, hey, why don't y'all come work with us, right? And now what has happened is this particular group of Gurkhas that I was with were all former British military. So the Brits have a regiment of Gurkhas that come from Nepal, and they are in the British Army, and they're their own regiment. So all these guys have been trained by the British Army, and now they all live back in Nepal, but they too are contractors that have been contracted to come in and do this with this company I was working with out of London. And one of the requirements was they had to be British Army trained. So they're all former British soldiers.
Really?
Yes.
I do like when you said, it's been said that if a man is not afraid of dying, he's either a liar or a Gurkha.
That's what they say. That's what they say.
I assume that later in the book we talk about that side of them.
We do. We get really deep into them, and this part of the book, the last few chapters, really sets the stage for the rest of the book. So you had to understand all of where we're at now, of who I had to understand who I was dealing with, from the government to the Gurkhas to the civilian side of the Americans to the military side and what their mission was. Now that we get a basis for that, we've got the foundation. From here forward, this thing takes off like a rocket. Right? But you wouldn't be able to understand the rest of it if you didn't have this foundation to begin with.
And I certainly wouldn't call it a slow build. I mean, you talk about the first day waking up at the Hilton in where was that? Kuwait.
In Kuwait,
Kuwait. To the plane ride, to the tarmac, to driving through the red zone,
right.
to the first day of mortars going off, blowing up your swimming pool.
Right.
Which, that was a sore subject still, I'm sure, to this day.
And even up to this point of the book, I mean, we're still not even a month into to being there, right?
The first one was one day.
So
first two chapters.
So everything's just going and going and going and going, and every day there's something different. There's something else I've got to learn, and the aspect of trying to pull all of these beliefs into one basket and go, who believes what? Who stands where? Why is this guy different than this guy, yet they look the same? It was just, and I know that sounds stupid, but the concepts of beliefs and religions and everything that was coming together in one spot was very overwhelming.
I don't think it doesn't sound stupid at all, because we kind of look at it from here as sort of very black and white. Even different religions we look at as pretty black and white. Like we can put them all in their categories. But even what you were explaining last time when you were going through the Iraqi government, like they overlap, they weave in out. But the differences are really, really different.
Huge.
And like cause wars, even if like the rest of it's pretty similar. So, you got to be careful with those differences. Here, like you slip up if someone's a slightly different religion, and it's like you might get corrected, or they might not correct you at all. It just might be like, oh, there.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
And then in this situation, dealing with the Gurkhas in particular, these are not government officials who I could stand and argue with if I have to. These are guys I'm going to need to depend on when the rounds start flying down range, or someone decides they're going to attack that compound or come over that wall. I need to have a fantastic understanding and relationship with them on a whole different level than I'm going to have with anybody else in this country. These are the guys that I'm going to have the best relationship with.
And you talk about how you tried.
I tried.
You tried. You tried.
I tried. You know, it's just different. I didn't understand them. They didn't understand me. We came from two different cultures. They didn't understand me on the military side. I didn't understand them on the military side. How they thought, how I thought, it was two different ways of thinking. My leadership styles and the leadership styles they were used to were two different things.
But were they talking about their military style and tactics and beliefs and their leadership style? Is that a Gherkin thing or is it a British thing because they were trained by the British and their military? Is their military experience British or is it Gherkin? You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to go British with these guys that I was dealing with, but coming from a Gurkha culture.
Gotcha.
So they have very high respect for their leadership. Extremely high respect, right? Like, I respected captains, majors, lieutenant colonels in the Marine Corps. I had a respect for them as men and as rank or whatever the case may be. But there was times like with my captain that he and I could joke around about some things. They didn't understand that kind of a concept.
Is it a Gherkin thing or a British thing?
I think it's a Gherkin background, being raised, culture thing, added to the British training.
So was it different than other British
Yes.
military members you had?
Yes, absolutely. And it was almost as if the Gurkhas were kind of like, they were here, and everybody else was there, and they allowed themselves to be that way, right? They never tried to get on equal ground with anybody, which I always found that strange. That's where they were, and that's where they stayed. They had a place, and they knew where it was, and I found that and I wasn't used to that type thing, right? I was the type guy or type leadership that you had in the Marine Corps was, I'm not going to be successful and move up in rank or stature any way, shape, or form if these guys don't. They've got to come because of my leadership, and then I've got to be the one that's bringing them up. These guys didn't care about that. They were fine staying where they were, and they were just in a place.
They didn't have any kind of political ambitions, and I mean political even in the military sense. They were there to do their job. They felt a certain way, and they were going to do it. And from what I've heard, they do it very, very well.
They do it very well. And I'm going to speak from a place that I'm not. This may not be factual, so don't take it that way. But I think that
Those are the comment sections.
It was almost as if, hey, I'm going to Britain to do my time, to learn what I got, and then go back home, right? So they were just there to do their service and then leave. Some stayed and, did progress in rank, but the majority of them did their time as British Army soldiers, and then they went home.
That's interesting because that almost makes it seem like they were just kind of in there to do a job, like almost disinterested, do your time and go home. But when they're on the clock,
they were on the clock.
Yeah, like they
wide open. Yes.
I have some input, but it's related to this. Tell me about the knives. The
Kukri.
Yes.
The Kukri is a nice hook knife. It's kind of shaped like a long U, or almost like a boomerang, but not as hard. Fits in a case. They got a couple little teeny knives on the outside of it. That had always been their main weapon of choice, right? From World War I, World War II. Was told that there was a time that if they took that out of the sheath, they had to draw blood, even if it was their own, to put it back in, which bothered me when I got there because that's what I was told. And then, of course, every American who walks up is like, "Hey, can I see your knife?" And I'm like, "No, they're leaving it. Leave it there." But that was a tool for them. That was a weapon and a tool, a survival thing for them. That thing, the way it was shaped and as sharp as it was, the things that they could do with it was unbelievable. And then they had some little knives on the outside. That was like for picking teeth and doing this and doing that. But that knife represented exactly who they were. Exactly who they were. And they would give those away as gifts. And for you to receive one, you had to be highly respected for them to give you one. So, yeah.
Well, the reason why I know that is because I have one in my house.
Do you really? Yeah.
Well, it's in my parents' house.
Okay.
So I grew up with it in my house. It was gifted to my dad when we were at Yangsan in Korea, and he worked with some of the there were Gherkins stationed there.
Sure. Yeah. They're all over the world, man.
Yeah, they were stationed there. And so he got to know him. And he said, and so I'm reading from the text that he sent me this morning, because I was reading this and I was like, wait a minute, I think I have one of those knives. So I texted my dad and he was like, oh yeah. He said that this is a story, this is directly from some of them, because this was in early mid 80s. So it wasn't that long after Vietnam. And they apparently fought pretty heavily in Vietnam.
Yes, they did.
And the group that he was with, he said, the Viet Cong conducted an attack that killed members of one of their families that lived elsewhere in the country. Within days, every few yards on both sides of the 2+ mile road leading to the Gurkha compound was a pole with a VC head spiked on top.
And there's no doubt in my mind. No doubt.
That's He also said that the Gherkins were so fierce and feared, battle maps showing battle lines showed a bulge in the VC/Northern Vietnamese lines where Gherkins were deployed. So if you looked at the battle lines in Vietnam where the Gherkins were,
had them lined out,
because it bulged out, it poked out where the Gherkins were, because they weren't losing. They didn't lose.
And I don't think they really made the map like that until, they made a pretty good impression on the British early on, but in World War I, they fought valiantly all over the world, even in Baghdad, and they were everywhere. In World War II, the same thing. There's a story from World War II. They went in a prisoner of war camp and didn't even take a rifle or a pistol. They just took that knife, and they killed everybody in there and freed all the prisoners. So they are a force to be reckoned with.
So, like, what was it? Like, what is it about them? Is it their skill? Is it just their mindset? Were they just tough and they could get stabbed and shot and just kept going?
There's a thing in the military that's good and bad. And I don't want to offend any of the Nepalese or any of the Gurkhas when I say this. There's something called stupid tough. And stupid tough
I know what you mean.
is good and bad, right? I mean, you just don't care.
Right.
It just doesn't matter, you know. You go, okay, I'm going. That's stupid tough. And when you've got that mindset, you're most likely going to win.
It's like when boxers go into a boxing match, and if they're worried about getting beat,
they're
going to
done.
be beat.
They're beat before they ever get in the boxing ring. And, you know, that's the same in warfare. You know, even Sun Tzu, when he wrote The Art of War, he knew what he could tell you. These guys are beat before they ever began, because they were afraid. And that's the way people were with Gurkhas. They're so afraid of Gurkhas, they lose before they ever start. Margaret Thatcher, when they had it out down in Argentina, she said, hey, you let my guys go, I'm sending a regiment of Gurkhas down there. And that war was over that day.
I read that in there. That's so funny.
That day, that war was over like that, right? Because that's just who those guys were. And that's just the way they fought. Now, the guys I had, they were older, okay? So I say older. They were my age then. You know, they'd been done. They'd done their military time. They were done. They were out. So on and so forth, like the rest of us. Mm-hmm. They still had the attitude. They may not have had the physical ability. Same as me. I got the attitude now. I have nowhere near the physical ability I had, right? But those Gurkhas that are in those regiments and those British regiments, they're young and they're hard and they're tough. And they're in great shape. So, you know, when you hit the button, go. They're going, no matter what. And they're built for it. They're just built for it, you know. And we were all built for it at one time, you know. I think my greatest years was when I was with that Marine raid company, where I was always in the water and always swimming and always doing this and always doing that. And it was, you know, from like 91 and 95, those were my golden years, right? That was what I was stupid. I was I'm going. You know, I had that attitude. Well, those guys have it all the time, and they still have it now. And those guys had it then. They had it at that time with me. You know, same thing. If I'd have told them to do something, they'd have done it nonstop.
So, okay, that's perfect. Because that brings us to how you do tell them to go. I know you said that they had the utmost respect for authority. So
Right.
that chain of command was not something you had to necessarily prove to them,
Right.
but you did need to. I don't know. I mean, they respected your chain of command, but you still felt like you had to learn how to communicate with them and learn how to be one of them and not get awkwardly dismissed from a party.
This is an easy one to understand. You can respect a man for his rank. You can respect a man for his leadership. Those are entirely two different things.
Very much so.
Or you can respect a man for both, right? So, I didn't want them to respect me for what they thought my rank was. I wanted them to respect me for my leadership. But I didn't understand how I was supposed to lead these guys. It's different than leading Marines. I knew Marines. I knew what Marines were. I knew where they came from, ground up. I didn't know a lot. I didn't have a lot of history on these guys. So the only history I had was the research I was doing on the ground. I was starting to try to look stuff up. And even if you go back 25 years, for as much information as we have today, I had information then, but nothing compared to the information I can get my hands on today, right? Plus, I'm in Baghdad, Iraq. I really don't have anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm doing old school research to try to find out where these Gurkhas came from, what are they, this, and I'm talking to some of the Brit guys that are there. I'm trying to get as much information as I can on them. And I got to depend on word of mouth and what people know from their own history. And sometimes that's not necessarily, they may not know what they're talking about either, right? So just trying to get, now these guys had their own chain of command as well. Because I had a major that was in charge of the company, and then he had 3 captains. And then they had sergeants and corporals and so on and so forth. A lot of them didn't speak English.
Even though they were trained
Correct.
with the British.
Right. A lot of them didn't speak English. They spoke broken English. They understood enough English. They followed what their commanders told them to do. Their commanders spoke very good English. Their commanders were, you know, very respectful. They listened in briefs and so on and so forth. And I assume they were good at passing back the word to their men as to what was going on. So this is what I'm assuming at the time. Now, you will find out as we move forward how much I did not know about these Gurkhas, right? And a guy comes into my life that really, boom, he's like, bam, this is where you're missing it. And pieces start to come together. But at this point, I'm just trying to figure out who these guys are.
So we do come back to the Gurkhas.
Constantly.
Good. Well, before we get into your first attempt to figure out who they are,
right,
the awkward party, you said a minute ago, you said you wanted them to respect you for your leadership and not for your rank. But given that you also say that how they saw everything in black and white, would they have simply respected you? I don't know if that's the right word. Would they have simply respected you for your rank? Like, would they have done their job just as hard because that's who they are because of your rank? But I mean, we know that there's a little bit more than that.
Sure, they would have respected the rank regardless. They would have done whatever you asked them to do out of their honor.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Now,
but it's different.
They would have fought harder for someone they respected. But they would have still fought.
They still fought hard.
Right. But if you add that one layer, sometimes that makes all the difference in the world. I'll fight for this guy. You've heard plenty of people say, yeah, I'll fight. And you hear some people say, I'd follow that guy to hell.
Right.
That's a different set of feelings when it comes into something. That changes the whole dynamic. I'll fight for you. I'll follow you to hell. That's two different things.
It is. I didn't know if because of the way the Gurkhas are described, and not just by you, but by everybody, if they were like, I feel like if they were told to do it, they would follow just about anybody to the edge of hell. maybe not all the way in, but so they're not complete just robot machines of destruction.
They think for themselves, and you know, I would have to think from World War I till now. I'm sure these Gurkhas fought for leadership that they didn't like, but they did the job,
and hard enough to get the reputation they got.
Right. But they did the job out of the honor of who they are and their reputation. They don't want to lose that reputation.
That's a good point.
That reputation's huge to them.
That's a good point.
So they're going to fight, right? But they're also when I say they're black and white guys, they're black and white guys, okay? You know, if I was to have told one of those Gurkhas, hey, you hold him at gunpoint till I get back here. He don't move. You keep him right there. I'll be right back. And this was Tuesday. And something happened. And I forgot. And I came back on Thursday. You'd still be at gunpoint. You understand the difference?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of where we are. They're going to do it. And they're going to do it to the best of their ability. And when I would put these guys on post, I'll tell you the story. It's just kind of crazy because sometimes it still blows my mind. I'd put these guys on post, right? And I'd make sure I would take you off post, put you on. I'd say, you're relieved, you're on. And you're on there for 12 hours. And you may be at the machine gun, you may be at the front gate, the back gate, you may be at this, that, whatever. I put this one guy on post. He's a lookout up top. So I relieve you, I put him on post. He's fine, life's good, everything's good. I go around later that night, probably about 6 hours into it, check the post, go see everybody, make sure everybody's doing good, walk with one of the commanders, one of the captains. And the captains are constantly walking their post. They never stop. So if something's happening, they're going to come and let me know. If somebody's sick, somebody don't feel good, somebody this, somebody that. I get up next morning, I go to relieve these guys from their post and put the new guys on. So I walk up to the same guy. He was a younger Gurkha. And I said, hey, you're relieved, you're on duty. And he collapsed. And I was like, what? And I looked at this captain, and of course they start speaking in Nepalese, and I'm like, get this guy, we got to get him to the hospital. So we take him to the Army hospital, throw him in the back of a SUV and drive him to the hospital. And I don't know what's wrong with him. He's passed out. He's holding his stomach. So I get him to the hospital, and they take him straight away in. And I'm sitting out kind of in the waiting room. They don't really have a waiting room, but I'm in one. And I'm like, what? And man, this Army officer comes out, and he's like, who is in charge of these Gurkhas? Who's in charge of these Gurkhas? I'm like, sir, I brought the Gurkha in. I thought he wanted me arrested. He wanted me arrested. He was screaming at me. This kid's appendix burst while he was on duty.
What?
And he never moved.
What?
He never moved. By the time I relieved him from duty and he fell, he had gangrene. He never moved. Now, I'm here to tell you, that ain't me.
No.
I'm down, I'm done, the lights, it's over. And I'm not saying the Gurkhas didn't get sick. There was times when they would be like, so-and-so can't come to post tonight. He's sick. Okay, he's sick. That's fine. Let's get him a relief or try to work it around. But that's the mentality. You put me on post, and I'm going to stay right here where you told me to stay till you relieve me in the morning. I don't know how he did it.
No.
And I was sitting here telling this Army, I can't remember if he was a colonel or a major. I'm like, sir, I would not do this to my people. You know, none. So they're calling the heads of my company, you know, that are there at Baghdad in the palace. And they're like, who is this guy? And he's abusing these troops. And no, I'm not. You know, that was kind of hard. And, you know, that misunderstanding got cleared up pretty quick. But that still blows my mind to this day.
That is, and he waited until...
He stood there 12 hours.
And then as soon as you relieved him,
he just fell.
I can collapse now.
Like, fell over.
My appendix is now allowed to...
Yeah, my duty's over. Boom. He's hit the ground.
That is...
You know, that's not in the book.
Insane.
It just blows my mind. But that alone, and I was still at a point when that happened that I didn't quite understand who the Gurkhas were. and the Gurkhas didn't quite understand who I was, or they did understand who I was. I didn't understand that they did understand who I was. That was the problem. But I certainly didn't understand them. And this guy falls, and you know, and then I'm feeling terrible. I'm like, man, you know,
Right.
and I'm trying to replay in my head. Did I make this guy? Did I say something that would make this guy not let us know that he doesn't feel good? I don't remember ever doing anything like that, or I wouldn't have done that. And just that bothered me for like a week. I couldn't quite understand it. And even the major who was in charge of the whole company was like, you know, Kato Saab, you don't have to worry. It's not your fault. You know, I'm like, well, I kind of feel like it is. You know,
Was he okay? Like,
no, he had surgery. He had to stay there. They cut out the gangrene or what they could cut out, but he was no longer fit for duty. They had to fly him back to Nepal. You know, which he fell under kind of the same insurance things I did. So, you know, the company took care of him and his family as far as him going back to Nepal. You know, that was one of the questions I asked. What do we do? Do we just disregard these people when they're done, or what goes on here? Because, you know, they don't make the same amount of money because they don't need the same amount of money. But, yeah, they're taken care of by the company back in Nepal. They were taken care of. But he could not continue with his duties.
is that bad?
Yeah.
Oof.
I mean, imagine you get gangrene. It's
I mean, it makes for a great story, but terrible.
it was terrible.
God.
Terrible. And I felt terrible about it. And it was like, man. But, you know, and you roll that through your head. Damn, what did I do? What caused that to happen? Why would he not have enough trust and confidence in me to say, hey, I'm hurting? Or at least tell his captain. I don't know. I don't know.
Because you were especially because you were in a, I don't want to say a fragile state, but in terms of the relationship and how and maybe your insecurities about, I'm not sure I know, like you said, how to talk to these guys. So like that, if that had happened a month later, you might have been like, well, that's who they are. That's
I might
fine.
have. You know, I was starting to realize, I think that was one of the points where I started to realize how much sense of duty and honor they have to themselves and to the job that they're doing. You know, it's just who they are. You know, they're not going to take it on what we'd call half-ass.
Right.
They're not doing that. They're going
But
full force.
in some ways, had it happened a month later or 2 months later, where you kind of knew who they were and you would have accepted it easier. I think in a lot of ways, it probably helped you that it happened the way it did, because you were able to still at that point see them as human beings who then you questioned yourself in a way that kind of reminded yourself, these are people. I still have some responsibility to communicate a certain way, even though you were not in the wrong. It's still the way it made you think probably was better.
I think that's kind
for
of
your
twofold,
relationship with them,
because from a military standpoint, and that's the way we thought. They were paramilitary. It was military minded. That's the way we worked. Had that happened after I knew them, when I got to know them, let's say 6 months down the road or whatever the case may be, I would have been pissed at him, because he would have known at that point
that's true.
what I expected out of him. If you can't stand this post at 100%, you got to let me know. I need you to be 100%. That kid was not 100%. There's no way he could have been 100%.
No.
So if you think, so after a while, later on, I mean, I felt bad about that for a week, but if you look back on it from that standpoint, I depended on him for an area of that compound that needed to be watched 100% of the time. There's no way he could stand there and do that. Now, maybe he did. I wasn't there. Maybe he did. But I feel like in hindsight, I couldn't have stood there and done that.
No.
No way. No way. And not have concentrated on what I needed to concentrate, because I had to be ungodly painful.
Oh, it had to have been awful.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Oh, well, that's a fascinating story.
Can't imagine.
All right, you said, I also came to learn that the quickest way to upset a Gurkha was to break any of the many rules that had been established by either Ronnie, me, or the commander's orders.
That goes back to the black and white thing.
Yeah, that was the very next sentence in there.
They very well understood what I told you. Stand here and put this weapon on this guy and don't let him move, right? Or it could be, don't let anybody through that door, all right? Your job is to make sure nobody comes through that door. And then somebody, one of the Iraqis, which they would do all the time, this is our country, this is our world, we're going to do what we do. You're going to run across those people. You're going to always run across somebody with an attitude. I don't care if it's out here at the high school football game and there's rules at the gate, right? Somebody's going to break that rule. He don't understand that. I was told you can't come through this door. Now you're coming through this door. Now I'm getting pissed. Now when they get pissed, that's when things get ugly. So they're always so friendly and humble and smiling. But when they got angry because of confusion, that's when things could turn bad. So you had to kind of keep a steady hand on that. There was no gray area with them. Here's the rule, and it will be followed. And if you try to step in the middle of it for any reason, well, we're going to handle it the way we handle it.
And did that happen?
Came close. Come. You'll see that down the line.
Oh,
too.
okay, good.
You'll see that. I'll tell you this, that there's a piece of stuff in the book, and I can't remember if it was Bremer's people that were on the grounds or one of the other dignitaries. Now, I want to think it was Bremer's people that were on the grounds. They'd come over, and they always had a sniper that would go up top. Okay? And I'm not going to give his name. He was an American. And I won't even get the company he worked for. But I had a news crew at the front gate that, and I won't even say who they were either because then it'll be a political deal.
Yeah,
but
no,
anyway,
it's
so
fine.
they wanted to come in and they wanted to interview one of the ministers. Well, they called me up to the gate and I go up there and my Iraqis, my Gurkhas up there and they're pissed because these guys are like, this is considered sovereign American territory. We're coming in here and we have freedom of press. Because at that time, the Green Zone was. But the Iraqi compound wasn't. That was the only sovereign ground in the country that Iraq owned that I was working on. That didn't belong to the Americans. It didn't belong to the coalition. It wasn't even really part of the Green Zone. It belonged to the Iraq government. So, but these guys were being who they were being. And I walked and I'm like, guys, y'all not coming in here. You're not coming through this gate. And they're like, you can't really stop us. And I pulled my pistol out. I didn't point it at them. I pulled it out. Well, the Gurkhas raised their rifles behind me.
It's like a movie.
I didn't realize what they were doing. So they raised their rifles up. And these guys, there's a camera guy, a producer, and a reporter. I think it was only three of them. Might have been four of them. But their eyes got about this big. They started backing up. And then I realized what's happening behind me. And I'm like, no, put them down. And I put my weapon away. And I'm like, guys, I'm sitting. And they got the point. And they left. They walked away. They were on foot. You could walk all over the place to that side. So now here's the funnier part of the story, though. So one Gurkha says to me, Saab, it means sir, how you do that? I said, how do I do what? How you put pistol on one guy and put red dot on the other guy's head? And I'm like, I'm kind of like joking. I'm like, well, I got this magic eye. And they're like, yeah, okay, all right. I don't even know what they're talking about. It's not even registering with me. About 3 days later, I'm walking through the palace. And I run into Steve, sniper.
The one whose name you weren't going to say a minute ago.
Damn. So, well, he used his last name then.
That's right.
Anyway, he walks by me in the hallway. I walk by him. He walks by me. We kind of run into each other, and he goes, hey, brother, had your back. I went, all right. Well, wait a minute. When? He said, whenever you was dealing with at that front gate, because he didn't know he's 12 stories up. So he saw me pull my pistol. He rolled that rifle down right on one of them's head. That's the red dot that the Gurkha was seeing. And he thinks I'm doing that with my eye. Right? And it all registered to me. I was like, I get it now. Now it all made sense. I had no idea what he was talking about that day. But as soon as I pulled my pistol, he laid in on him. So, because he didn't know what was about to happen either. He didn't really know who they were or what was going on. He couldn't hear what we were arguing about. But
He didn't care.
He told me, he said, well, I knew when you pulled your pistol, you didn't point it. You just kind of had it at the ready, you know. He said, but when those 4 lifted their, I said, yeah, and they were standing behind me. So I'm not even sure where they were pointing. If it was the back of my head or off each side. I'm glad nobody pulled the trigger. Yeah, I can't hear now anyway. But yeah, it was things like that were kind of interesting. But yeah, the Gurkhas are an interesting group of people. They are an honorable group of people. I have a high amount of respect for them. I'd love to go visit Nepal, and I stay in touch with a lot of them on Facebook. Yeah, they're good guys, and they're all over the world, man. This is how those guys make their living. They go everywhere. They do this all over the place. There's conflict everywhere in the world, and whenever a company, these guys are well known all over the world. When a company needs a guard force, these are the easiest guys to grab.
Interesting. Is it in any way similar to sort of how the French Foreign Legion is, where it's sort of like, I know they operate, they're just a mismatch of whoever wants to be in there, whoever can do it, but how they just get kind of pulled to wherever they're needed. Is it similar in that regard?
It's similar in that regard, yes. What it's not similar in is you and I can't go be a Gurkha. But you and I can go be French Foreign Legion if we want to. One
of us could.
Right.
I don't think I would do so hot.
But no, that's right. Hey, man, we need a guard force. We'll get those Gurkhas, man. They'll come over and do it.
Interesting.
They'll do it. And they're scared of nothing. They go over there scared of nothing. We'd have rocket and mortar attacks, people running, diving for cover. I'm one of them. You know, I'm like, I got to find out. These guys are like, yeah, okay, yeah, you know, life's good, it's fine, you know. Didn't hit us. We good.
That's your problem.
Yeah.
The poor guy at the picnic table.
Yeah, exactly. It just didn't bother them. Rockets would be falling, mortars would be falling. I would be going from post to post to make sure these guys are all right. Things are still coming in, and they're just like, he's up. Hey, you know, there's no fear.
That's amazing.
None. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I felt fear.
I think most people would.
I just don't know. They just didn't seem to have it. And I think that's when I talk about just being stupid hard. It's just what they were.
It's interesting because it's not sort of this spiritual attitude or mindset they have because, like you said, they're different religions, which I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
It's just a cultural, it's just who they are.
Sure.
I'm going to look at that when I'm at my parents' house next. I'm going to look at that.
Take a look
that
at
knife very differently.
Yes.
Well, of course, the last part is the awkward party. So you tried.
I did try. You know, they worked in shifts. So every weekend, one of those shifts was off. One would be on duty, one would be on call, and one would be off to do whatever they wanted to do. Okay. They like to drink their beer. They like to have a good time. And so did we in the Marine Corps. I mean, I think that's a military-wide thing no matter what country you come from.
And teachers.
And teachers, yeah. So, you know, you're going to get together as a group, camaraderie. You're going to drink. You're going to lie. You're going to tell stories. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. This is what we're going to do. We talk about each other's girlfriend and everything else in the world. Well, I thought I'd join them. So I went over to the Gurkha camp. I knew they were cooking. They were having a big party, drinking, carrying on. And I walked back to the back of the compound where they all had their little party. There's one little spot that all of them would go. It was set up particularly for this. So they could cook a meal, have their table, have their beer, have everything set up, and they would stay there, and they would stay there all night long.
It's like their own little NCO club.
Yeah, exactly, except it's outdoors. So while the rockets and mortars are flying over, we're care less, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go. This in the Marine Corps, there's a way to get to know your men, and that's one of them. And a lot of times it's not an everyday thing that you're hanging out with your troops. That's not something that's going to happen. But every now and again, you want to get with your guys. You want to have a drink. Sure. You want to let them cut loose. You get to learn. They'll talk to you. You'll learn things about them that they're not going to tell you about it. And that's kind of what I was looking for. So I go back and I step up on the podium. I kind of come out of the dark because that's the only place that's lit up back there, right? And I step up, and they looked at me like I had fingers growing out of my forehead or something, right? It was just weird. They just stopped, and they became calm. And they just sat. I'm like, how's it going, guys? Everybody having fun? Yes, yes. Okay, y'all have a good evening. And I turned around and left, and I thought, wow, man, these guys must hate me. Right? I mean, that's just the way I felt. These guys must hate me.
Well, you did make one of them get gangrene.
I did. Well, actually, I think the gangrene story was kind of after this fact. So this was really early on. This might have been in the first 2 weeks, you know. I'm like, we're going to get to know these guys. I got to get to go know these guys. So, and it was just, they just shut down on me. Shut down. And I didn't understand it. And I walked out of there thinking, man, and you know, I was probably 300 yards from the main gate. Before I got back to the gate, they were hooping, laughing, carrying on, doing back to what they were doing before I left. And
that hurt your feelings even more.
It hurt my feelings. It did. And it did. Now you say that, that's what it was. My feelings were hurt. Butt hurt, right? I'm like, damn, man, these guys really don't like me. I'm not clicking with them. I didn't understand them. I didn't understand them. But the understanding's coming. It's coming. But it's going to take somebody else to make it all click. And as we go forward, you will start to see how that relationship really, really bolstered, changed, and changed my life with these guys, changed my relationship with them, changed my leadership style, changed everything.
You said you still keep in touch with them.
Some of them, yeah.
Did they ever invite you to the party?
I can't tell you that yet.
Okay, dang it. Okay.
Can't,
Look at you.
I can't. We can't jump forward here. Can't jump forward.
Well, we are going to jump forward because that wraps up the chapter on the Gurkhas. But the next one you said is when things take off, called The Awakening. And we're not going to get into it on this episode, but tell us what we're going to.
I think what we've got now is we've got a foundation. You understand how I ended up there. You know, you understand what the job is. You understand all the parties and entities that I'm dealing with. Now we get to go. Now it starts. Now everything starts to ramp up, and we really get to the meat of the story.
And it is called The Awakening. The
Awakening. This is when everything in my mind starts to go, wow, this is different. This is different. This is not what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting the fact that I was the one that has always kind of been in the wrong about everything. Everything. My whole thinking and concept and looking at things was always wrong. I was always wrong. And I'm about to be woken up to that fact. Yeah.
That's deep.
It's going to get deep. This is going to be like an onion, and we're going to start peeling it back.
Does that mean that I'm going to cry?
There's a possibility.
I might.
There's a possibility.
Well, I got worried about you when you said you realized your feelings were hurt. Like
It's a possibility. It's a possibility.
Well, I am so excited. I'm excited to get into that one soon. I'm excited to be back in here with you. This is such good. This is so good. When I was, and I told you this the other day, when I was going back and getting the stuff ready from the last one, when we had the break over the summer and all that stuff, and I was like, God, I sent you a text. I was like, God, I've forgotten how much fun this is.
Yeah,
this is
a
so
good time.
much fun. I love it. I love hearing about it. I can read it on my own, and I had somebody, another listener of yours, tell me the other day that when they read the book, because they got the book, that they hear it in your voice. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's the same way for me, but I actually get to talk to you about it. But they said they actually hear it in your voice, and that's
good. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, as we go forward, and I talked to you about this the other day, we're going to start bringing some guests in here that were in the book, and I think that'll put some more realistic, pop to it as we go forward.
Not Steve, though.
Not Steve.
Yeah, we would blur his face out. We'd still have Steve.
I can't bring Steve in here. Thank God. That shows. See, that's how smart I am. So, not Steve. Won't bring Steve. Steve is there a red dot on my head? I might be next.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, yeah, I'm excited. You're gonna have. You said 2 guests, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. Well, we'll have 2, and then we'll have another one from outside the country, maybe popping in here, and yeah, I think it's going to be fun moving forward. And
I love it.
I'll be putting this up on the YouTube once again. If you like it, hit like. If you want to subscribe. We're going to move through this thing. I think we got a lot of things planned in the future. This is going to be a lot of fun.
That's good. And of all of it, probably the best news was hearing how your summer was, and
Yeah.
and being nominated for the award. What was it again? It was the Military Writers
Society.
Society.
Yeah. So get the book. Take a look at the book. Let me know what you think about the book. I seem to have some fans out there. Not many. We trying to get up there. So we'll see what happens as we move forward.
I love it. All right. Well, again, Officer Danny Cato. I'm Adam Spate, teacher here at Chapin High School, and this was a short chapter, but we made the most of it. I loved it.
Covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Yeah.
So next time, come back.